Hi everybody, and welcome to my newest SpeedPaint video thingy. I'm gonna try doing a voiceover in this one. I know, like forever ago, I used to do a lot of voiceover stuff, but then since I started doing, what was it? Since I started doing SpeedPaint, I've just been putting audio, but I think I'll try this one out, especially since this photo is one that is a bit more dear to me than the rest of them. Okay, so this photo is a redraw this drawing. You can add a challenge there if you want. I didn't really see it as a challenge, but you know, it's a redraw this drawing. I should probably put at some point in the video, at the end of the video, I'll show a before and after. And so the original drawing I actually did last year in November. I guess last year counts as 2016. Anyways, I did it November 2015, and I meant to have it done for around December, November 2016, but if you can't notice by the time this video is uploading, it is almost February 2017. I have been working really slowly on it. It's a bit larger than my normal drawings, and it took me about twice as long as a long drawing. So this one took me about 12 hours to draw. I had 12 hours of footage that you're seeing all put together right now. Anyways, so it's a lot more stuff, and it's actually a photo of my cats. So at the time that I first drew this, it was like one of my first time I had my two cats that I love so much, Athena and Aphrodite. We put them together in the same house, same room, and they didn't get along at all. They still don't get along. Yeah, I've pretty much given up on the idea that they'll ever get along. So instead of having them get along in real life, I thought, why don't I just draw a different reality where they actually do get along? So in this one, so this is my drawing where they get along. And I like seeing them in my, like, they don't have to get along in real life, but they can get along in my mind, and that's just fine. And I think they like it because they don't want to try and get along. So anyways, in this photo, I have them as kind of like cat people because I don't know. Cat people are easier to draw than actual cats. Maybe I'm too picky with cats. Maybe it's just, I don't know. They're cat people. And yeah, so anyway, so right now I'm drawing Athena. I'm doing the line art for Athena. She is a bit more, she's a white cat, and she's pretty stuffy, I'd say. She's very much of a tsundere. She's very, I don't give a damn about anything. I don't care at all what you think, but please love me, because if you don't love me, I'll be very sad. But no, I'd never be sad. I don't care. You know, that's very much Athena. She doesn't care about anything, but she does. Like, seriously, she always acts like she doesn't love me, but I know she does. And she always acts like she doesn't like my hugs, but if I don't hug her, she'll be like, why aren't you hugging me? Stupid, you know? So I kind of have her in this one. She's the older of the two cats, so she's, of course, Dee Dee's older sister. And in this one, I actually kind of pretend that she's protecting Dee Dee because, well, she's older. She's the older sister. She's very tough. She is a very tough cat. She is very strong-willed. Very strong. So I thought, why not have her protect her little sister instead of fight with her little sister? You know? Oh, in the corner of this screen, I got the original picture as a reference. Just saying. Anyways, so in the drawing, she's actually got her hand out like, stop, you have to go through me before you at all, like, even talk to my sweet little sister, Dee Dee. And I'll start talking about Dee Dee when I actually start doing the line art. I always do the line art first, and then after I'm done the line art, well, I do the sketch first. But anyways, I'm not showing the sketching. So I start with the line art, and I do the entire line art for the entire image, and then I color it in. So I kind of have Dee Dee's sketch and everything erased just so I could, or invisible, so I can concentrate more on the lining of the Athena. And anyways, too many lines and you don't know what to line and it gets confusing, right? Anyways, so I did that, and right now I'm lining Athena's hair, and I think that's the only thing I think may not have turned out as well in the second one. Athena's hair, just part of me thinks I could have done a better job of it, and I'm trying really hard not to be all nitpicky and everything, because I mean, I could nitpick this drawing to the ends of the earth, but I'm not going to do that because no one really wants to listen to that. I don't really want to listen to people nitpicking their own art, but the only thing that I don't like about it is Athena's hair. Just the little bits I feel like I probably could have changed, but I don't know how I would have changed it, and I think it's good. It's good. It's good. Anyways, so yeah, I pretty much have done that, I guess. What am I talking about? I lost my train of thought. That's okay. So Athena is looking really cute. I'm just making sure that I erase all the lines because I kind of, like when I was doing the hair, I just kind of got rid of all the lines, did the hair, and then I was like, and then came back later and erased all the things that I needed to erase, like the lines that kind of help out structurally. Oh gosh, and then this part that I'm doing right now, that gave me a lot of trouble. Like that little part there. Oh, I've already moved on to the ears. Oh, I love drawing ears. I know the first time I actually ever started drawing cat ears on people was about last year. And so the original drawing was one of the first times I had done that, and I'd worked really hard on their ears, and yet I'm looking at it and I'm like, I did a really much better job of their ears this year. And I don't even draw ears that much. I like drawing ears though. So yeah, now I'm basically adding ears to every one of my drawings in my sketchbook because I can. And I like drawing ears. So there. Okay, and now we're working on Dee Dee. So as you can see, their characters are much different because Dee Dee is a much different cat. Whereas Athena can be kind of standoffish, strong, and, independent, Dee Dee is quite the opposite. Dee Dee is very sweet and needy. So I hate to say that she's needy, but she needs attention. She's not a big cuddler, but she constantly needs people to be like, she needs my mom, who is really kind to her, I guess. She needs people, and so she needs them. Gosh, I just repeated myself like 10 times. Sorry. But she's a bit more needy than Athena is, and she's a bit more dependent on people, unlike Athena, who's extremely independent, or at least Athena pretends that she doesn't need anyone ever. Dee Dee doesn't pretend that. Dee Dee knows she needs people. She knows she needs it, but she doesn't always act like it. Whereas Athena always wants attention. Dee Dee quite often will be like, I don't need attention, I'm all right. Anyways, Dee Dee still acts to this day like a kitten, even though she's like 8 or 9 years old. She still thinks she's a kitten. She still acts clueless all the time. She's always like, oh, there's a string. Can I have the string? Yay, strings! She's just like that, and she's got these huge bug eyes that are just giant bug eyes, so I made sure to make her eyes extra big in this drawing, unlike Athena's, and she's always really curious about everything. Oh, and where Athena's a white cat, Dee Dee's got some spots on it, but for the most part is white, so I kind of tried to carry that over into the drawing by giving her brown hair and then white pale skin, like, because her belly's white and everything. So, and then she's got like this big brown patch on the top of her head, so it kind of makes sense. Oh, and I gave her pigtails because it again suits her personality. She's very childish and sweet, so pigtails. And I put little top pom-poms because they're cute and she's cute, and yep. And then longer pigtails. Yep. Because that's just kind of how I imagine her. And they're both wearing schoolgirl outfits because, I mean, why think of something creative for them to wear when you can just put them in schoolgirl outfits and pretend that Athena's in high school and Dee Dee's in elementary, and they're both walking to school together, and Athena's making sure Dee Dee gets to class on time and then running off to her class, which she probably is a little late for, just saying, because she was spending time making sure Dee Dee was at her class, and therefore Athena couldn't get to her class on time. Oh, this is my imagination. Oh, and then, I always, so like the really annoying thing about drawing Athena or any person with white hair. I remember my last drawing, I was like, okay, I'm never doing white hair ever again. And then next thing I knew I was drawing Athena, and I'm like, why am I drawing an all white cat? I hate doing white hair because it's so hard to do highlights on white. So anyways, I made her hair a slightly off-white, kind of a yellow tint, since she usually has a yellow tint because our lights have a yellow tint. Oh, and she's got kind of yellowish green eyes. I think Athena and Dee Dee have about the same eye color, but if I were to draw them with the same eye color, that would look kind of dull. So Athena has yellow green and Dee Dee has lime green. So it's still true to their eye color, but a bit, different. Now I'm shading Athena, and so the thing about shading is, especially with Athena, because I originally gave her an incredibly light white skin color. It's like a slightly off-white, but it's basically white, so I knew I had to go pretty deep with the red shading to make sure that she didn't look like she was a ghost, and it looked like she actually had blood flowing through her skin, so all the color came from the shading. And so I made sure to shade appropriately and kind of fiercely. And then when I was shading her jacket, part of me wanted to do the same really harsh shading I did with the skin, but again, shading black is also really hard because it's harder to get dark. It's like hard to get dark colors when it's already black, right? So you usually, if you shade black, you have to rely on highlights, where if you shade light, you have to all rely on low lights. So I barely did any highlights for her skin, and yeah. Anyways, I ended up doing a lot of highlights, and it was very minimal highlights, and so it wasn't able to do the same sort of harsh shading, but it still looked shaded and good. And also it has a different texture, so I could always say I shaded it differently because it has a different texture and therefore reflects light differently. And I know what I'm doing. And it was the same thing for the skirt. I wanted it to be harsh, but it was a different texture and it was darker, and so I had to, leave it. And then I also tried adding purple into the skirt, just lightly, just to make it look cool. And then make it look more depthy, like it's not just shaded simply, it's got some purple to it. And now I'm shading her hair, and oh my gosh, as I was saying, I hate shading and doing hair is usually my favorite part, but when it's white hair, you're like, how do I do the highlights? And I always like doing the hair on the highlights. So if you look at the end photo, Dee Dee's highlights are a lot nicer than Athena's because you can't highlight white. It's already white. Can't make it even lighter. Anyways, so of course I went with a dark yellow because Athena's because in this she's like a really platinum blonde, because you can't just give a teenager white hair and go, it's a teenager. And also it's hard if it's kind of boring to shade gray on white, so you kind of want to give it a bit of a color. So it's the same thing with the skin, so it livens it up, so it's not just white. Anyway, so I did that with her hair, and then when I was doing the highlights, I took a green so I'd be able to see what I was doing, and not just because white on white, and you're just I can't see any of these highlights. So I made it green so it would look a little weird. So it looks a little weird, but I'm just imagining that in a different color as I'm doing it, trying to get it to look right. And then later I'm going to change the color. And I had a bit of trouble with it because my computer was being a little slow, and it's always a little slow at this part because of all the blending and blend craziness. Anyways, yeah. Now I'm done Athena. She looks really nicely shaded. I love the way her skin and legs turned out. It turned out great. Her hair looks about as best as it could as white hair. Oh, and right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to get this. Oh, wait, no, I already finished. Well, this thing, what I was going to say is there's this thing where you have the hair going on top of the eyelashes an eyeball, but the eyeball still kind of shows through. And so then you just kind of play with opacity of layers until you get it quite right. And then you're just like, okay, let's not touch it. It looks good. Don't mess with it. And so that one's a bit lighter, looser. I don't know. Anyways, so with Dee Dee, I had actually colored her beforehand just so I would know what it would look like to have the two of them kind of overlapping, and if it would look bad to have Dee Dee in front of Athena covering up a lot of her, or some of her. And so I just wanted to make sure that that wouldn't look too bad. And then when I did Dee Dee, I think I didn't have like the bucket tool like turned up high enough, so I had to go over a lot of the hair. It's tricky because if you turn up the bucket tool too high, I'm not explaining this very well. Ignore that because I didn't explain it very well. But if you turn up the bucket too high, it'll just go straight through the lines. And if you leave it too low, then it won't quite get everything. Anyways, I had trouble with the eyes, but some perseverance, and it turned out really well. I wanted the highlights to be really big because you usually can get a sweeter, more innocent look if you have the eye brights really big, but I think I may have made them a little bit too big there, and I ended up making them smaller in the future, unless I already did that, which I might have already did that. Anyways, originally I had made them too big, and then I made them a little bit smaller so it would not take up her entire eyeball, because that would look weird. And now, of course, I'm doing the skin shading like I did with Athena. I wanted her bangs, like the hair right underneath her bangs, to be really dark because bangs cast a shadow like Athena's, and I was finding that I couldn't quite get it dark enough without it completely covering up the eyes, because the eyes I'd already done, and I don't really want to shade over top of the eyeballs. Anyways, eventually using the airbrush tool, I was able to get it to look dark enough without like needing to cover up her entire forehead with like shadingness. So yeah. And again, with shading the t-shirt, I had to shade white, and I hate to shade white with gray because gray is such a boring color. So again, I did a kind of a grayish pink because her outfit was pink, and I thought that her shirt probably had pink undertones because her outfit was pink, and pink is a Dee Dee color. Yeah, I kind of imagined what their favorite colors would be. So Dee Dee's favorite color in my mind is pink, and Athena's is black. And Athena's favorite color is black, and I know this because she loves sitting on black things. She's a white cat, and she knows it, and she loves sitting on black things just so she can get her white fur all over them. And so it's her favorite color. She purposely sits on black things. Say I'm crazy. I know I'm not. Just ask Athena. She agrees with me. Actually, she's sleeping right now, but still. Anyways, so then I did the lacy stuff on the bottom of her skirt. That wasn't actually in the original drawing, but I added it just to make her skirt a little bit more cutesy, just like Dee Dee is. And again, you know, I just imagine that she probably modified her school uniform to make it more to her liking. I'm sure everybody does that to their school uniforms. I wouldn't know. I never had a school uniform. Yeah. And so then, of course, I'm just shading things and always trying to go from that mix of too dark and not dark enough, and then, you know, making sure it looks good. Oh, and then with those long talon thingies on the top of her shirt, I just kind of like did a very basic shade for them, and then was like, okay, that's good. I'm not going to try too hard on them because of the way that they look. It's just, yeah. And instead I put more effort into her skirt, which again might have too much airbrushing and not enough cell shading into it, but I think I got a good balance. Wonder how many times I've said balance. Probably not that many, but I've talked about having balance in between it looking too cute and too not cute, too big and too small. It's all about looking good, and people always like balance. So things tend to look better if you have it well balanced. Anyways, I don't know if that has any relevance to what's going on in the video, but I'm saying it, so it must. Anyway, so now I'm doing her hair, and again, shading in the hair is usually my favorite part That's why I always leave it for last when I'm the most tired and done with the drawing. So I have the most fun at the end. So it's not as much like a final push to get the drawing done. It's more like, my fun part, the fun part, yay! Or my favorite part, yay! And anyways, so then with her hair, I feel like I didn't quite get, like, what I try and do with the cell shading is I'll know where the light is, and I'll try to have one side have a bit more of a deeper cell shade-ness to it, and the other side be a little lighter, like a little softer. I don't think I did that well because there are a lot of bumps and grumps to her hair, and the one side seemed to have more than the other, and the side that I wanted to be a bit darker had less bumps to it, so... Anyways, I tried to add in some bumps and grooves to make it look like that. And then, of course, I later went in with a airbrush tool and just darkened it up a bit so it'd have a general darkness to... So it'd just generally be darker. And then, of course, highlights, aka the best part. And with her highlights, I kind of did the dippity-doo thing on her head. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's very... dippity-doo. I don't know why I used that word, but I like it. And then, of course, I'm just doing the finishing highlights. I don't know when I first did this highlighting technique, but I really like it, and I'm going to keep it, and it'll be my signature hair highlighting technique. And you can see the contrast between white hair and regular hair, and how much I was able to add to the highlight because of the highlights that I wasn't able to add with Athena's hair. I think I'm at the end of the video now, so yeah, I'll see you guys all later, and there's a before and after. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Bye!